Jack, you missed a good TPP meeting last Thursday, apparently.
Yeah, I apparently did.
I don't ask me. I wasn't there. Akhil was there. I'm still being a recluse. So my theory is that Bruce Wayne's a recluse. He's obviously a superhero and he's rich. So I thought if I practice the recluse bit, the other two might follow.
Okay.
I'm lost a bit. I don't know where we are up to now.
What have you done? What have you lost, Surinder?
Okay, the meeting is being live streamed now. Got it.
Oh, hang on. You're telling me we've been live for the last 15 minutes and all this talking we've been doing is broadcast live?
Okay, let's get on with it, please.
All right, let's get on with it. Right, good afternoon, everybody. Apparently you guys have missed some great backroom, green room discussions, as they call them. I think that's the term. So welcome to this Thursday afternoon's TPP. We've always got a great program each week. This week is even gooder than before. Yes, definitely. Right, as usual, and those that made it to last Thursday's in-person event, well done. House point to everybody out there. Those that didn't, no names named. Never mind, you might get the next one. Apparently, we're planning quite a good one next time as well. So, getting straight onto the show. The man with the money at number 11. Akhil, what have you... I'm going to hesitate to ask this question. Have you got any good news for us today? And I know what you're going to ask me is, yes, Surinder's disappeared with the 50p's, but I'll put them in the meter, especially for you, mate, and you can share slides. Off you go. So try and give us some good news if you can.
There's always plenty of good news from our end in the mortgage market. So as usual, every week we update your viewers with what's happening in the mortgage market, general trends, general questions. So we're going to kick off as usual in that capacity. Can you see my screen there?
Yep, I'll put in all the 50p's.
Thank you very much, sir. There you go. All right, so as ever, thanks, Dil. Thank you, Surinder, for inviting me on the TPP show each and every week, where we give a mortgage market update. My name is Akhil Mayer from Our Mortgage Broker. I am the founder and CEO of Our Mortgage Broker. We specialize in all types of real estate finance. So whether you're a first-time buyer, whether you're a buy-to-let landlord or a commercial investor, we are your one-stop shop for anything to do with real estate finance, mortgages, and insurance and protection as well. As you can see on my screen there, we've got our office number, which we're based in Berkshire, and we've got a team of advisors that are within the M25 and home counties. You can contact us by email and visit our website. For those of you that are a bit more IT savvy and you've seen that QR code in the bottom right, feel free to take a picture of that, answer a few questions, and we'll certainly be in touch with you with regards to your mortgage and insurance inquiry. So as I do each and every week, provide you with a housing market update. Bank of England has increased their rates, as we all know, to 0.5. There's another committee meeting coming up next week. So look out for that. There's always talk of a rate increase, and I don't think, and I don't disagree, I should say, with any of that news. There's lots of pressures on increasing of interest rates. There's the war, there's supply and demand, there's energy prices, there's inflation, which is the magic I word at the moment. So do look out for interest rate rises during 2022. And the key point I want to make there is, for those of you that have got mortgages coming up for renewal in 2002, whether that's your home mortgage or your own buy-to-let portfolio mortgages, please do get in touch, where we will offer you a free consultation at no cost whatsoever. It'll take about 30 minutes, and we can do that by Zoom, telephone, or in person. There's as there has been over the last couple of years, and many years I should say, house price growth keeps continuing to grow in the UK. It's hit 12.6% in February, despite 2 rate rises in the last few months, and we're pushing average house prices to over 260,000 now for the first time in the UK. So I always say, I've heard this from many commentators in the market, today is the cheapest day to buy the property. So if you're looking to buy property, don't hesitate. Contact us for the affordability. Does it make sense? Is it the right property? Does it cash flow? Let us help you are making that decision and putting you in touch with our power team. And that's what we do at OMB. It's providing relationships and good level of advice. Demand for rental properties is soaring back up. We saw during the pandemic, everyone leaving London in particular, moving out to rural parts of the UK simply to be with their families or saving on the rent accommodation and living with family for that very reason. But what we're seeing as we are exiting COVID, thankfully, people are now moving back into the office environment, albeit on a sort of 2-3 days a week process. But what's happening is the demand is back to where it was. It's going back in the way it was pre-pandemic, and for that reason, rents are soaring. And as it said, the stats are 76% in the last couple of months, and average rents across the country are now £1,000 per month. As I said, inflation at the moment, who knows how high it is 5.4 really the right percentage that everyone should be thinking about? We know it's here to stay for the short to medium term, I believe. We're at 5.4 apparently percent with the inflation. The UK target is 2%. So we're nearly 3 times of that amount that we should be at. I think we are certainly going to see an increase of that, certainly over the next 3 to 6 months, just simply because of the smart supply and demand issues that we've had over the last couple of years because of the pandemic. There's energy and gas prices, inflation that are coming into effect, and everyone's going to be hurt with their monthly direct debits for gas, water, and electric in particular. The Russia and Ukraine war is also causing a huge issue. The last time I checked, I put petrol in, it was £1.56 where I was. So I think that's going to be increasing over the next couple of months. So if you're falling short of a bit of gas, now's a good time to do it, because I think it's going to keep going up if this war continues. The government stimulus, there's a lot of central banks in the UK and in the world that are looking to pull back on the government stimuluses. I think it's a good thing, and I think that's a huge issue why we're seeing a spike in inflation over the last few years. So hopefully that stops very soon, and we can climb back down to where we were for our inflation targets, rather than being at 5.4% at the moment. Another hot topic at the moment are mortgage rates going up, and I get these phone calls. We as advisors get these phone calls every single day, and the honest answer is rates are going up. Interest rates are going to be going up simply because of the inflation pressures, which then puts further pressure on the central banks increasing their interest rates to manage inflation. So as I said at the beginning of this call, please do bear in mind, if you've got mortgages coming up for renewal, now's a good time to start looking in lower interest rates, which they're still on offer, whether you're at 60% loan to value, 75, even at 90% loan to value. Now's a great time to get in touch with us, because rates are, albeit still very low in comparison, but they are creeping up. And we get newsletters and emails thrown to us left, right, and center from all lenders, from the high street to the specialists to the commercial lenders, and they are increasing their rates, albeit from, for example, 0.05 all the way up to 0.6. So for those of you that are portfolio landlords and are listening to this or watching this online on social media, be mindful. This increase in rates will affect those that are on standard variable rates and on tracker rates. If you are on a fixed rate, you'll get away with it for a while, but as in when your fixed rates come up for renewal, please lock in the new rates sooner rather than later. This slide never changes, and this is one that we've always kept in, and I probably will keep it in until the government make their mind up on these new EPC changes. The key takeaway from this is, ideally, you should be looking for properties to invest with EPC ratings with an A to C. And the reason for that is because the government potentially are looking to reduce or improve the energy efficiencies for all the investment properties, and they must meet an A to C rating. Now, if you've got a new tenancy starting from 2025 and your EPC rating is below C, i.e. D, E, F, and so on, you won't be able to get a buy-to-let mortgage. So be conscious of that. And all existing tenancies need to be A to C compliant from 2028. This is not in stone at the moment, but what lenders are doing is they're actually bringing in a lot of green products, green range mortgage products, and you get preferential rates. So the key takeaways from this slide is try to buy properties that have got an A to C energy rating. if your properties have a D or an E, look at ways of improving the efficiency for the energy for you then to qualify for cheaper mortgage deals that are on offer from A to C going forward sooner rather than later. So A to C is the magic letters. I thought I'll just throw this slide in. So there's common questions we receive from property investors. So I'll quickly blur over them, but what is the difference between a buy-to-let and a let-to-buy? Well, a buy-to-let is a property that you wish to purchase with the sole purpose of letting it to a third party in the interest of making property investing a business. A let-to-buy is sometimes referred to as an accidental landlord. Let-to-buy means you wish to let your current property to a third party with a view to move to a new home simultaneously. This usually occurs when you cannot sell your home and you want to move into your next dream home, or you wish to turn your current home to a buy-to-let investment property. The exact terms of the let-to-buy will be subject to the rental income the property will achieve and the equity remaining in your property. Another question that we usually get is, what should you buy, a new build or an older property? Well, my view is both old and new properties have their benefits. With new properties, you must factor in the larger service charges if it's a flat, and the premium you pay for a new build with integrated appliances, for example. Benefits such as 10-year build warranties from the likes of NHBC help too, and are an additional safeguard for buildings insurance. Old properties you will find have more options to extend the property, and they tend to be stronger in build quality in most instances. From an EPC perspective, older properties usually have a lower rating, so try to find properties, as I said earlier, ideally A to C, or with little money to spend to improve the rating. The other questions we get, is it better to invest in an apartment or a house? Apartments are a great starter homes / investments, as they tend to be for younger people, couples and young families. Apartments come with an annual service charge and ground rent, which you must consider as part of the cost of running the property, along with the lease tenor that is reducing yearly, which can mean the lower leases, for example, below 85 means the value in most instances reduce. And in order to extend the lease, you would need to pay the premium to the freeholder. If you decide to buy a house, sorry, bear with me. If you decide to buy a house, you would benefit by buying the freehold, which gives you the greater investment value rather than a leasehold flat and not having to pay the service charge and ground rent fees. What are the pros and cons of having a property in a personal name and in a limited company name? Well, it's a subjective question, and what I would say is one size does not fit all. We always recommend our clients seek property tax advice and then make a calculated decision for tax purposes. Typically, limited company buy-to-let rates are approximately 1% higher than personal name buy-to-let rates. There are approximately 40 odd buy-to-let lenders in the market, of which 20 odd are now in the limited company space. Investment via a company structure has certainly picked up pace over the last 4 years because of the change in Section 24 and around mortgage interest reliefs. Another question that always crops up is, where's the best place to invest in the UK? Well, in my view, the vast majority of the UK has seen a property price growth between 5 to 10% annually, typically over the last 30 years. The key to investing is buy low, buy at the right time, find properties where you can value add, and then refinance at the market value to help scale your property business. Other suggestions I would give are to invest in upcoming or major towns and cities that benefit from good transport links, highways, local resident meet the average salary band, and properties that demand good tenants. Become a master of the town, understand the demographic, average length of tenancies, and create a buy-to-let that everyone is seeking in that area. Cash flowing properties as a new entrant in the buy-to-let market is key, and look for areas that are still providing capital growth in and around major towns of London and the home counties. What criteria do you need to buy a buy-to-let? It's a great time to enter the market, I would say, looking to refinance your properties because of the low interest rate markets we're in. The large number of buy-to-let lenders in the market offer flexible and bespoke criteria with high loan-to-value options too. Get in touch with me so we can assess your current circumstances and find you the most competitive terms based on your circumstances. Lastly, how do I ensure I get a HMO commercial valuation? Well, in planning terms, a small HMO with up to 6 occupants falls into the C4 use class, and larger HMOs with more than 6 occupants are considered sui generis. Some key points to note in my experience. Number 1, convert the property to a premium and compliant HMO standard by providing evidence of alterations and adaptations have been carried out. Apply for the right mortgage product and ensure the lender is instructing a commercial yield valuation rather than a single family let property. Ensure there is demand for a HMO in the street and within the close proximity. And lastly, provide the valuer with comparable investment sales or similar HMOs when you visit the property together for the HMO. So I hope that's helped there. Sorry, excuse me. The screen before the last one is the typical mortgage rates. As I said, these rates have been creeping up over the last weeks and months. I think they certainly will be going up further in the months to come. So as I said, and I keep on saying it, look to refinance sooner rather than later. Try to lock in the 2 and 5 year rates in particular to safeguard from any further rate increases going forward. And that's it for me. I always like to leave you guys with a quote at the end. And today's quote is, if you think hiring a professional is expensive, wait till you hire an amateur. And I think as property entrepreneurs, whether you're starting out or you're a seasoned investors, you've got to ensure that you surround yourself with the right people and you keep self-educating yourself. That's it from me. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to reach out on the usual social media handles, and our URL is @OurMortgageBroker. Thank you, Dil. Over to you.
Gil, thank you very much. One question before I pass you on. So actually 2 questions. The second one's, the usual one. But the first question is, look, if everything's going up, what's the point of raising interest rates to stop them going up? That's a bit silliness, isn't it?
Well, they've got to hedge it, right? You've got to be conscious of inflationary pressures, and you've got to be conscious of how to work within the parameters of debt. Now, what they want to do, they want you to, they're trying to stop spending. They want us all to sit at home and not spend any money. And the best way of doing that is raising interest rates and putting that money into deposit accounts. Now, the problem with deposit accounts at the moment, they're nowhere near even, a regular cash flowing property, which is going to get you 3% yield, for example, here in the Southeast in particular. So interest rate, it's a very, very a hard thing to manage. Because you've got global pressures, you've got economic pressures, you've got UK pressures, but I still think we're actually getting below market value lending in terms of borrowing. And I think if you take advantage of the low interest rates that are on offer at the moment and you use that as a hedge to invest and scale in properties, it's a very profitable business to be in. But you've got to counter that and ensure that you've got to keep enough what they call it powder dry to safeguard you for any spike in general household expenses, which we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, I think you've passed the interview for number 11. I think you might have to wait a little while. That seat's not going to get vacated for a while, I think, at the moment, because he's not moving to number 10 yet. So unfortunately, but I want to ask you the question I ask you every week: when are you going to 11? Because I guess you can't go there yet. The seat's not empty. So look, thank you for that. It's an interesting view of the money world, as I'd say. Now, and by the way, I think that was one of our viewers calling you for a mortgage thing because he wants a real quick update.
Yeah, so I put the phones on mute there, so yeah.
That's all right. It's one of our viewers, so you're going to get back to handling that. Thank you, Akil. Great weekly update. And look, you heard it from the man with the money. That's how you make money on property. Now, it's that time of the show. Put away your colouring pencils. Get your writing pens out. Because everything Akil talks about, how to do the HMOs, add value, all of that stuff, all of that good stuff. Our next guest is going to tell you how to do it in real life. So we're going to have 3 elements of this conversation next. He's going to do his presentation and I'm going to take some notes and listen carefully. Then I'm going to ask him some really interesting questions. And then we're going to have a real fun discussion at the end of it. So stay for the last third. Okay. You will really enjoy it. Who's our special guest next? Is a friend of the program, Jack Jiggins. We always have a good conversation, and I see he's locked up in his special bunker. That's I don't want to say it in case it does come over here. Should we say the issues in Ukraine? We don't want them getting anywhere near here. So Jack's already prepared for that. He's going to tell you how to execute all the strategies Akil just mentioned. I'm not going to take up any more of his time. I'm going to hand it over to Jack. Jack, over to you.
Thanks very much, Dil. Thanks, Akil. Very insightful and up to date, which is very good. And thanks for having me on again. I'm quite excited for today because I had a chat with Surinder about a month ago to sort of line this up. And the last talk I did for you guys was on deals and keeping your pipeline full. And that is what I live and breathe. And I'm not good at many things, but that's one thing that I think I've got dialed down pretty well. To put proof in that pudding, we've got 10 deals in legals at the moment that we're pushing forward, and all of them are very nice, and we're very excited to get started on them. But the reason I'm excited is because I said to Surinder, what does the audience want to hear? And I let Surinder and the listeners choose the topic of today's discussion. And the general consensus wanted to hear about scaling businesses. Obviously, I'm a lot more experienced in scaling property businesses, but you'll see from my presentation, we have also scaled service-based businesses and other different types of property businesses. So I've got together a bit of presentation. I'm going to run a bit of a run through of who I am, what the business is, what it's doing. So apologies if you've heard me talk before. It's actually new slides, so there should be some things that you haven't heard, seen, or listened to. And then I will then go on to tell you about what our business is and how they're performing, and why hopefully I can give you some tips on scaling businesses. So hopefully I'll be able to share my screen, which I can, which is good. Dil, I don't know if you can see these new sexy slides.
Yeah. Listen, I put in all the 50p's. You've got unlimited 50p's now. Well, when I run out, Surinder will put his £50 notes in. So
the 50p's and £50 notes are no good anymore. They only accept contactless.
Mate, it's all right. We got a special deal with the Zoom guys. Don't worry.
There you go. Good. Fantastic. Cool. So as you may or may not know, I'm a co-founder and director of XP Property. We are an SME property development business. It's self-run by me and Ben. I'll come on to talk about who we are and what we do. We established the business only in 2018. So I think that's one of the first points and hopefully an incentive for you to understand that things don't take forever. Ben has a phrase that people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 5 years, which I think is a really topical phrase because I completely concur with that. So our company's not massively old, and hopefully you can see from what we've done, you can see how we've got the knack of scaling companies. So we specialize in residential, commercial, land and mixed use. Ben and I have a conversation all the time because that's not really specializing in anything, because it's doing anything. But I suppose where we're most unique is we can turn our hands to various types of products, and we're happy to do so. What we do like focusing on is adding value at every stage. So that's acquisition, structuring and funding, the design, delivery, and the sales and marketing of a development. That's very project specific, and today we're going to be very business specific. So we might touch on some of those points. And also importantly, we're driven by understanding our investors and what they require to de-risk schemes and ensure that we have a transparent approach and giving our investors the right returns. So this is the team. It didn't start off this way. It was just me and Ben. We look like we're wearing, supporting a Daz advert there in our white shirts. But there is more behind the scenes that help me do these presentations and put them together and look sharp and help us deliver the projects and help us with our operations, with our IT, with our hiring, with our accounts. And we're very fortunate that we built it up to accommodate that. And this is how we can deliver £16 million worth of schemes in a year. And we've bought something every 6.8 weeks since we've set up the business in 2018. Good fun stat there for you. I won't talk too much about Ben because he's not here, and hopefully one day you can have the pleasure of hearing him talk about himself. but he has a degree in architectural engineering. He would say that's sort of an architect, sort of a structural engineer, but not qualified neither. So he has a good understanding of what looks good and what can stand up. I make the joke that he could be either, but he's not, which is always a fun one to wind him up with. Additional to that, he's worked at the Berkeley Group as a technical manager. He's run his own business outside the ones that we own together, including Aura Architecture, which you can see the plaques and awards and team there. A fantastic architectural practice based in Clapham. If anyone's looking for any work, then he'd be happy to price up in Clapham. And he's been property investing a little longer than me, since 2010. He built his own first house as a new property developer in 2016. And then obviously shortly after that, we set up XP Property. One little fun fact is he used to be a professional poker player. I really haven't got a fun fact about me. Maybe I should dig one out. So a bit about me. I'm a third generation.
I've got some fun facts I can share for you afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be true though, Dill. So I studied business at university. I've always been a trader, sales. I love a transaction. I love securing something below market value and selling it higher than market value. That's been my sort of, I suppose, go-to since I was a very young age. In actual fact, I set up my eBay account, which has been very active since 2016. I actually had to lie about my age when I set up that account because I wasn't old enough to have one. I built and sold businesses in the fitness industry. I've project managed schemes in central London for a £7 million office fit out. I, with my hands, these hands here, have built and flipped several self-build projects. One of them, actually all three of them on the right-hand side there, that the external shot is I built with my hands. A lot of people don't believe that I can build a house with my hands. I probably can't anymore because I've lost the knack. And I haven't done it for a little while, but I do like getting my hands dirty. But what I learned from that is I'm not going to have a very relaxing and successful life if I'm always relying on picking up stuff. So I built my house also in 2016. I set up several property businesses, which we'll go into a bit more detail later. And I classify myself as a property developer, a business owner, and the leader of Jack's Hacks, which is on our YouTube channel. I'm all about efficiencies and improving things to make them better. So we've mentioned Aura Architecture, and we've mentioned that I've got some property businesses outside of my partnership with Ben. So let's run through them and understand what they do. So Aura Architecture, we mentioned. Central Suites is my family-run business, which does lettings, HMOs, flips, and property management. XP Surveys, which is a building measurement and topographical surveying company, which is located in the south of the UK. Ben and I set that up about 15 months ago. We've got a great team that can deliver great surveys. So if anyone needs a measurement survey, let us know. And we're also co-founder of a housing association portfolio we're building at scale in Croydon. And in 2021 alone, we built out 86 beds. So getting under the bonnet, I love looking under the bonnet of any business vehicle. Anyone can tart up a photo and share it on social media, and it looks sexy. But to me, unfortunately, I want to see the numbers. And hopefully this gives you a bit of an idea of what we scaled and grown in the last 5 years since Ben and I have collaborated exponentially. So we're running 5 companies. We're valuing either revenue, delivery of projects, number of team, amount of beds that we're delivering, but the figures are the most important. They talk volume. So currently we're delivering £21.9 million worth of schemes collectively, which have been delivered across all these companies. In delivery at the moment in time is 8.5 million, collective beds is 259, and the collective revenue across the companies per annum is 16.5 million. So again, under 5-year-old companies collaborating on a healthy revenue and P&L. So this is what we bought in 2020 and 2021. Just gives you a bit of differentiation of what we're buying, showing that we're actually doing it. And I've been unfortunate that I've been to events and they don't show us what they're actually doing, and it doesn't seem to be like a lot when you actually dig into the detail. We are doing a lot. We have a phrase, what we're lacking in grey hairs, we're making up for in activity. And we do network. We think that your network builds your knowledge, your clients, people that you work with, your partnerships might drive you deals. Obviously, the property professionals is on there. But yeah, we enjoy collaborating and sharing what we've learned in these events, because I didn't go to university and study property. I went to university and studied business, and most of my knowledge has come from experience or events and, you know, tuition and mentoring and boardrooms. So really thankful to be part of these networks. We've been fortunate to feature in podcasts, books, magazines, so on and so forth. And this last year, we got nominated and won one award, nominated and was a finalist for another award. So it just goes to show that the sort of business we're building and assets we're delivering are getting acknowledged across the UK, which is really positive. I won't go into too much detail about these schemes. This is just a bit more of what we've delivered or are delivering. These are all our resi schemes. These are all our commercial schemes that we're working on. I think one of the USPs that our company have had over the last few years is we've fallen in that gap where there's commercial developers, residential developers, but very few mixed-use developers. There's a lot of shops and uppers developers around sort of inside the M25, but we've done mixed use outside of the M25, and there's been good a good space for us, a good grey area that we could really capitalise on. So into the main topic, which is scaling a development business. Now, I have been a bit more property focused, but these are 5 areas of business that we outline and keep constant review on. Within property, it's unique in the sense that every SPV is a business in a business. And I will say that the great thing about property is you could set up a little business that does a small deal, and if you like it, you can continue going on, and you're not exposing yourself with asset-backed investments. But this is very business eccentric. So let's take a look at the landscape of that and what that means. So what I'm trying to help with here and what we analyze is itemizing all these areas of the businesses. I've got the sort of duties and who covers what, how we look at them, and then to relate that into property and give you some tips of what we focus on, because I know that there's a lot of low content, high loud noises, events and educational things out there that can actually be a bit confusing because they don't get into the detail and actually help you push you on your journey. So hopefully this pushes you in the right direction. So what do we have in sales? We have the deals, rental sales, selling sales, investment, and there are 4 categorical areas that a development business will actually have. There could be other things if you do one-to-one mentoring, which we do, or run boardrooms. There could be sales in there, but I'm purely focusing on property. Marketing, project marketing, company marketing, and your professional profile. And all of these sort of complement each other. I've kept that fairly broad and talk about what you could market, not necessarily how you market. But I'll come on to later about how we initially started to do that to scale up. Operations systems, your IT, your business process, your project process. The difference of those is if we take on a project, it's not the same way that we run our business week to week. We might have a cash flow that's quicker than we do our business cash flow. We might have a cash flow that's slower than we do our cash flow. So these sort of things have a project-specific process and have a business-specific process. One of the most important things, and because I'm on the acquisitions and I do get deals done and I love acquisitions and it's really where I find my flow, you have to have an offer process. I see all of the time people say, I haven't been able to find a deal that works. And when I ask the question, when was the last time you followed up on an offer that you've made out? And they say, I haven't. I go, if you don't have a process and stick to it, you're not going to get deals. CRM systems and project management tools, I'll come on to share later what we use. Finance in your business and property business, your accounts, your forecasting, investment, senior finance, and they're the 4 main core ones. We could go into so much more detail about that. So within forecasting, you've got future investment, you've got seed investment, you've got cash flowing, you've got tax efficient ways of moving money around the businesses, so on and so forth. But for now, I want to just keep it fairly straightforward on those 4. And then last but not least, but again, not the most important, is the talent in the team. So you've got your team, your recruitment, virtual assistants, personal assistants, and your training in-house. Scaling a business is interesting when you're growing a team and trying to train and trying to appease a team to perform. And I love a phrase that if a team all performing off their strengths, it will be a much more, efficient and effective team than if some people are just given a job description and aren't necessarily performing on what they perform best at. So sales, let's focus on sales. So I don't mean putting a property in a window and selling it. Sales is sort of your deals, your pipeline, what you're actually doing. You do not make money as a developer unless you're delivering projects that make money. So I'm ring fencing this under projects, and I just wanted to be specific on what sort of projects you could be doing. So let's focus on sales to start. Now, what I wanted to share today is 3 different types of deals that we have done in the last year that have a very different outcome, return on investment, risk profile, delivery, technicality, strategy. And the reason that we wanted to share this is to show you that you need to have an understanding of what you can do to do it well, and make sure that you're able to diversify. So this is a project we bought in Spencer's Wood, Reading. It's a mixed-use development site. We bought it as 4 studios, 7 tiny offices and an industrial building. And we renovated the rear industrial building, which you can see in the middle there, built 2 pods on the front, and it's now 7 grade A offices. And on the top left-hand side, we converted that building into 3 brand new flats. So why am I showing you this? This was a mixed-use development. It was an ongoing concern. We bought it unconditionally. We got planning consent. And it's just so unique as opposed to anything else you see out there on the market. The most important thing I'd love for you to take away with this and these 3 deals is the creativity that we've thrown into this project. So we created this deal. So we bought it for 780. I think I've got the numbers here. We bought it for 780, all-in cost of 825, our total cost of 1.5. Our GDV was 2.25 as a RICS Red Book valuation. We think we can actually sell it for about 10-15% more as a yield income play, which will mean our profit margin is 750 minus costs. So that's about 550 net profit. And if we do get the better price, it will be about 850 if we sell it on the investment value. What we've focused on there is we've taken a very interesting asset that has so many exits, and we've really fine-tuned how we want to exit it. So I suppose that the real emphasis on this case study is, when I set up a development business, I didn't know I was going to be doing this deal. So I need to build the foundations to be flexible and creating value in projects. Before we do jump onto that, you can sort of see here on the bottom left-hand side, the finished flat that we had created. That is an actual photo of the actual flat. We sold all the flats without furnishing them and got over market value, but we wanted some marketing material. So we actually paid for someone to do a CGI like that over our actual photo so that we can use it for our marketing purposes. Just a bit of fun, that one. Cool. So moving on to the next deal. So this one completely different. No new build elements. It's not a flat. It's not a HMO. This is a block of 14 flats that's fully income generating. All the flats are occupied in Oxfordshire. And we bought this on an 8% yield, but we knew there was value add. Where? We bought it as a share purchase. So we bought the company. We bought this to do rent reviews on every flat because they were well below market rent. We bought it because it's in a great area for rental capital appreciation. We bought it because it's a dirty asset. There's a lot of improvements that could be made. And we're really excited to finish this scheme. We're about 8 flats through the 14. And again, so this, we didn't have to overcomplicate things. It's an ongoing concern. We bought the whole company, so we saved £100,000 in stamp duty. But the main emphasis here is This wasn't a deal that just sort of crops up. We had to create this deal. And the way that we've created that is understanding where the true value is. And it's a lot of asset management in this one, a lot of refurbishment, no new build as per se. But it turns out to be a very profitable deal, which we will share with you. So we bought for 1.5, our build costs are 470, total costing at 2 million. The end value should be around 3.1. We're currently sitting at around 2.25. So we've already exceeded our costs, and we've still got a load of flats to rattle through. So the profit margin should be between sort of 900 and £1 million. Now, again, not complicating this, a lot of people in the market are out there looking for 20+% on GDV schemes. This was a block of 14 flats already producing that income that just needed an asset management play. And that's how we operated on that particular scheme. Now, a completely different one, a little old drum with 3 bedrooms near Reading, really affluent area. This was quite a creative one that no one taught us, but again, differentiating this. Now, one of the most difficult things in any business is cash flow, unless you're into air shipping and drop shipping or online businesses or e-commerce or whatever it may be. But for businesses that have presence, that deliver big lumpy schemes like this, even construction companies, cash flow is king. This particular scheme, we exchanged and agreed an exchange delay completion. We exchanged for £5,000. We agreed that we were going to throw in planning after exchange. That was all fine. But we saw an opportunity to trade this in an auction. So that day that we exchanged, we put it into an auction. We ended up selling this site for £60,000 more than we had agreed to buy it for. The new buyer through the auction exchanged that day in exchange for higher than the amount that we paid, and then completed on the site and took the contract off us. That's called a sub-sale, also known as in the olden days as a back-to-back. And the reason that we love doing things like this and why it benefits our business and our sales part of the business is it cash flows us doing the other schemes. So having a diverse understanding of what you need to bring in as your sales and understanding your strategy is so key. We now have a criteria of what we need to perform in every quarter, how many sites we need to be buying, how many need to be delivering, and what sort of threshold of value we need to be hitting. So that's really key to take on board when building a bit of a strategy in property development. So we made about 50k on that, but our total investment was 10k. So an equally good return, which is quite a fun project to look at. So moving on to marketing, and I don't want to overcomplicate this because there's so many fun things that you can do in marketing, and we have started to really push on our marketing. And we have got Sarah, who runs our marketing in XP Property. Ben's got someone that runs his marketing in Aura Architecture, and we've got Jay, who runs it in Central Suites. The most important thing is be transparent and just share. Whatever you're doing, share. People that are around you want to hear and see what you're doing, and you will find the sooner you share, the better. I've heard a phrase, the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago or today. Everyone uses it in property and says the best time to buy a property is 30 years ago or today. I'm bringing out a new phrase, the best time to share is 30 years ago or now. There you go. Tokens that under Jack's hacks right there. Third, and equally important for the back end, is the operations. And this is something we, as a young business, and certainly a business that's scaled over COVID times, and we have grown year on year by a minimum of 60 to 80%. We do love systems, IT, leaning on business processes, projects, and CRM. So what I thought would be useful for you guys is to just share what IT we use within our business. And these are, most of them are free actually. That you can use. So top left, Google Drive. We love Google Drive within our business and helping it grow because you can use a live document and all access it and edit it at the same time. It's a really powerful tool there. Middle top, we've got Xero, which is a paid tool, and this runs our accounts. Top right, Zoom. I'm not sure if anyone knows what Zoom is. We haven't heard much of it over the last couple of years. It's obviously video conferencing software that everyone's been dependent on like food and water for the last 2 years. And we love Zoom. Every day of the week, I'm sending a Zoom to a team member. I'm sending a Zoom to an agent, and we're working collaborative on a Zoom. Asana is our project management software. It's a bit like Trello. If you haven't heard of Asana and you do use a Trello, it's great for making sure who knows who's doing at any given time. And it's great for allocating tasks between the teams and ensuring that things get done on time, efficiently, are understood, have time frames, so on and so forth. Loom, middle bottom, is a software that we use that records your screen and you talking about your screen that you can then share with someone. This is really good for direct to vendor, assisted sales, explaining your business to investors, explaining it to anyone, banks. We actually did Loom videos to the awards that we won, and they really liked that. So Loom is another. Sixth is Bluebeam, which is basically like an AutoCAD PDF editor that you can play around with space standards and things like that. So what you can do is you can take a site and rework it. It's basically used by architects and CAD designers and CAD draftsmen, but I'm an idiot on those things and it is a bit idiot proof. So I do use it. If I see a plot of land and I want to see how many houses I can get on there, I do a scale on it and I can work that out myself on Bluebeam. Crazy, isn't it? Independence right there. So we're rattling through. I'd rather do as much Q&A as possible because then I think it would be really acute to the audience, but we're now moving on to finance and then last but not least, talent. So Akil was really kind in giving us a market snapshot and his FAQs in the market. I think finance is one of the largest parts that's underrated in property development. What I mean by that is my part of the business is securing, structuring and funding deals. Ben's is design, delivery and sales. Now, I don't want to be spending most of my time dealing with underwriters, banks, monitoring surveyors, going through the process of due diligence for funding, drawdown requests. I don't necessarily want to be spending most of my time doing that because I'm a property developer. I want to go out and find deals, but I do end up spending most of my time doing that. And like Akil says, you get the right people on board and you work with the right lenders, you'll halve your amount of time in half. I can guarantee it. So we love being very acute on finance. A few things we've done to help us scale as a property business in finance and our accounts is we've restructured the group. And what I mean by that is normally a property development company has a propco and then an opco. And what I mean by that is a propco tends to run schemes and the opco tends to be like a trading co. Everyone has a different structure. We got solid and sound advice from an accountant and we shifted everything over to them. And we now have a group structure. And what that means is the ecosystem cohesively works. So we have a trading company, we have a group company structure, we have SPVs, and they all report into each other tax efficiently and in the right manner so that we're operating fluidly as an engine, as a collective business. Because if you make a profit in this project and you don't necessarily make a profit in this project, there is ways that you can optimize those profits. And not only that, make sure that you've got money in the right places at the right time to move fast on deals that you might need to buy quickly and so on and so forth. So group structure is one thing that we looked into pretty quickly. Forecasting, our business is so reliant on forecasting because there's so many lumpy projects that we're funding or cashing in on. And it's very, there's almost an equal art in timing with property development and not as in like market timing, buying and selling I'm on about like timing of selling this project and funding the next one. I call it the developer's internal chain. You've obviously heard of people selling houses and they're in a chain, right? So they've got to sell a house to buy the next one. Internally, as developers, we sometimes have an internal chain where we're selling at site X because we know that site C is coming up and we need to make that transaction happen internally. We may not alleviate that externally, but we need to make that happen. So forecasting is key. Me and Ben do a forecast every other week and run our cash flow every other week. Investment. Really key one for property because property is one of the most prolific asset classes. I think it's something like 80% of millionaires are millionaires as a result of owning real estate or being in real estate. Huge stat, and exactly why investment is such a big thing in our industry, and a big thing to our business. And I would classify myself as a property investor as well. Make sure you focus on building out a very solid, sound, no nonsense, concise, easy to follow investment brochure to help you scale your property business. Make sure the foundations are there that you can add to it. If you are unable to get investment, or I'm coming on to senior finance, make sure that you are open to partnering with others that may be able to borrow from investors or senior finance. So last but not least, Akhil mentioned a few things about senior finance, but from a developer's perspective, what we aim to do and what we aim to do well to scale our business, specifically on scaling, is we like to build a relationship with 2 to 4 lenders, if possible, one small and one large, and then a backup small, backup large. The reason we do that is because once they get to understand you, they become a lot more pragmatic at lending. And once they understand that most investors specifically back the jockey over the horse is the development deals. We're the jockeys. We get off the horse and we go and do another race. And most investors back the jockeys. Some senior finances predominantly look at the deal because that's where their charge is, but the jockey is extremely important to them. So the brochure can help in 2 senses, and building a relationship can be equally as strong. A little top tip of Jack's top tips, and I'm happy to share this with any listeners. One thing we've done as a small business that are not borrowing 6 million to build out schemes, the other costs that are associated with borrowing money often make the cheaper lender more expensive. What I mean by that is, when you get a terms on a page from a lender, they'll give you their rate, they'll give you their in fees, they'll give you the term of it. But what they won't tell you is how much their monitoring spare costs, how much their legal costs are going to be, what the valuation is going to cost, what the revaluation is going to cost, what the ongoing costs are throughout the scheme. All of these things, in my experience, have sometimes made the most expensive terms lender cheaper than everyone else. So take these things into consideration when you're comparing your lender. If anyone wants this, I've got it on an Excel and I can share it. But all you've got to do is tap in. Obviously, you've got to ask your lender that's given you an agreement in principle what their rates are, what their arrangement fees are, what their monthly rent is, what their annual rate is. You analyze that, and then you put the total borrow in, works funded, etc. And then what this calculator does that I've created is also adds the other costs such as monitoring, surveying, lenders, legals, valuation, reval, exit legal, and it blends the payable amount of interest on the borrowing. And I have seen time and time and time again that sometimes the cheaper lender on the face of it is actually more expensive than others. Jack's hacks for you there. And that one is not on Jack's hacks. So that's a little special one for you. And then last but not least, to scaling a property business is talent. We make a joke that Ben and I haven't got any. If Dill wasn't on mute, he'll be laughing away. So across the area of the business, so we said we look on sales, marketing, operations, finance, and talent. When Ben and I started out, we did everything. So Ben and I were working in all areas of the business. I was better than him in some areas, and he was better than me in others. But what you both normally have to do, or if you're an individual business owner or there's 4 business owners, is work together to work in every area of this business. You'll probably have someone that's slightly stronger. But what I would say is it's really key to understand what your strengths are, because you do need, and one of my advice is coming in later, to understand what you're best at so that you can leave each other's strengths. I wouldn't necessarily say you need a team to build a successful development business. If you want to scale it, you probably do. I know a developer that runs a student development business. It's him and 2 partners, and they've delivered 4,000 units over 6 years. And there's no team, which is pretty phenomenal. And we definitely couldn't do what we do without a team. So this is our team. And you can see the sort of areas that we still focus in. What you have to be clear of is you definitely have a lead in every area. And what I mean by lead is someone that heads it up. So I can't say, well, Ben and I both do that. What you need to make sure is one person leads and follows up, chases up, ensures everyone's doing what they need to. But for our business, one of the most important things that we took on was, first of all, a business executive, which is Sarah, and she basically picked up the slack with all the admin that we were building and struggling to get through. You've got to understand that Ben and I value our time in adding value in developments, finding the deals, organizing the structure of a deal, being creative on the deals. We're not necessarily paid for filling out forms. Now, no one really likes filling out forms. And if there is someone out there that does, then let me know, because you'd be welcome in our company. But what I'm getting at here is you have to play off your strengths. And if someone's strengths are really outperforming, adding value out on the sort of battlefield in development or in sales or bringing deals in or the marketing, play off those strengths. Our second hire was Saul, our operations. He's really techie, likes making things more efficient, again, helping with our back end. And the third and last hire that we've hired in, and I don't see our team growing that much more in this business, is Victoria, who's a technical project manager who helped Ben with the design and the delivery. Now, I've got a fun little exercise that all of you can do in your own time, but hopefully it improves your time and your ability to scale what you do in the business. So this is an exercise that I do quite frequently, probably once a year, where I do a task list of every single thing that I do in a week. And that can be filling up my car with fuel, washing my car, finding deals, working on utilities, creating brochures, watering my plants, walking my dog. All of these things need to go into this task list, and you'll bear with me and you'll get to know it. So put every task that you ever do in a week or a month, make sure you get everything that you do. And what you need to do is get that all down in an Excel or on Notepad. And you need to put two columns to the right-hand side of it. One is called like and one is called don't like. Start to go through and jot up everything that you like and everything that you don't like. Once that's done, you should have a split. It won't be equal, because you might not like a lot of things you do day to day, and you might like a lot of things that you do day to day. If you do like a lot of things day to day, hats off to you. I definitely didn't start that way. Now, what you need to do is, and this is how we like to outsource or delegate. I'm not a massive fan of the term delegate, but it helps people get their head around this a bit easier, is now work out what your hourly value is in the business. So what you think you're worth an hourly rate. Now, an easy way to do that is add hours onto, the last HMO you delivered. So you found, secured, built out and redelivered, what profit that made and how long that took you. That's your hourly rate. As a development, how many hours you've spent on a development scheme, what profit it's going to make at the end, and how that's your new hourly rate. If it's below minimum wage, by the way, maybe you need to rethink things. Hopefully it's not. So you've now worked out your hourly rate, and you've got a list of every task that you do in a week or a month. The next thing I'd love for you to do is everything that you don't like doing and costs less than your hourly rate to outsource, and you can outsource it, do it. So start working through that list and start outsourcing those things. Yes, financially, you're going to have to take a hit for a few months, but if you work on your cash flow and get it right, your efficiency and profit levels are going to go through the roof. And that's a really key, I suppose, task list exercise that I do quite frequently. Cool. So that's pretty much it on tips and areas that we focus on scaling our business. I hope it's been useful. Business is such a busy and problematic thing to be working on. Ben and I always say that you've just got to be creative. You've just got to be willing to problem solve. And realistically, what we're aiming to do here is ensure that we give you some tools that you can go and work on to scale your business, similar to how we have. You may be going to the next level. But what I thought would be useful is give you some mistakes that we can reflect back on and say that we've made. Hiring admin and operations is key. In my opinion, now it took us too long to make those hires. Why? The cost. Now we see the benefit of them. So it's a no-brainer. And I'm sort of telling up myself back then that we probably did that too late. Work on your business alongside the deals. Ben and I didn't work on our business until about 8 to 10 months in, which I find crazy. And it's actually quite a big entrepreneurial mistake. You see all these people going on to Dragon's Den and all they've worked on is the product. Ben and I have been victims of that, and we hadn't focused on the business, built a business plan, focused on who's doing what, focused on building a team. So that's a really key thing that I would accentuate from the beginning to be doing. Focus on business cash flow from day one. Cash flow and forecasts are just as important as what the past is saying. So you need to know what the next source of income is coming, whether it's residual, what your burn rate is, what your break-even point is, how many schemes you can soft fund, what you need in the business. Those things are very, very key. Don't lend out your own money if you can get it working yourself. Ben and I have accidentally lent out money because we've seen a good opportunity come up. We've lent it out. It takes longer than it was supposed to. You get a fixed return, and we're property developers, and we could probably make that work harder ourselves. So that's one thing we've done in the past, and we don't tend to do much more unless it's on our own schemes. Build a strategy and deal criteria. Don't be gung-ho. Don't necessarily be a magpie and go for any shiny deal that you see. Have a fixed criteria. Value your time. That's the most important thing. There's more deals out there than there is hours in the day. So make sure you value your time and build a criteria. I hope those are useful. If anyone wants a more detailed explanation on those, let me know. I've got 4 tips that I'd love to share as well. As a personal perspective, remember out there that the first deal is always the hardest. And what do I mean by that? That's finding it, that's funding it, that's structuring it, that's buying it, that's delivering it, and that's selling it. It will always be the hardest. As soon as you get past the first one, it will get easier. So keep in there, stick to it, and you will improve as long as you're sapping the information from the process, learning from mistakes. My phrase, a mistake isn't a mistake unless it's happened twice. But definitely the first is the hardest. And no one told me that. And I was like, this property life is pretty difficult, you know. Second tip, 10,000 hours. I spent a good few years really struggling to find a deal that would work. And now I'd argue that I struggle to find deals that I can't make not work, if that makes sense. If you allocate the time to something, you get really good at them, and you know how to navigate that process. Divide and conquer. Ben and I split the business to what I do, what he does. Our staff do what they do. I do what I do. I trust them. They can get on with it. If they don't do it well, we need a review. We need to ensure that they're back on track. But trust other people to do what they're strongest at. Follow up on offers. And this is my favorite. And this is very much a deal centric one. And you're going to get little bits of that with me, unfortunately, because I am a deals man. Would you believe you if I told you that everything that goes under offer, between under offer and exchanging, 33% of those deals fall through and either go back on the market or don't get sold? So what I mean by that is, if you don't follow up on those offers that you've already got out, you're going to be missing out on those 33% of deals that you can be capitalizing on. To show you the true power, you saw earlier today the 2020 purchases and the 2021 purchases that we had made. There's 3 deals that aren't circled in orange, and they're the only 3 deals that did not require a follow-up. Every other one we bought because of the follow-up. So that's really, really, really key. Follow up on your offers, follow up on your endeavors to secure deals, because you will do more deals. And they're just 4 tips from me. How potentially could anyone listening work with us? We run mentoring sessions. We do earn and learn investments. We run our own boardroom session, and we have XPJV investments. And last but not least, because we love you gang and we love the XPP team and everyone there, we are willing to offer 20% off your first measured survey if you get in touch with the team in XP Surveys. Come to me, you've got my email there, or just look at me on social medias and get me to price up one of your surveys, but we'd love to make that offer. Last but not least, we've also got a YouTube channel. Ben's forcing me to do it. I think he wants to be on Homes Under the Hammer take 2. But we're trying to grow our YouTube too. So please give us a subscribe. And if I can help anyone in any way, share anything that I've shared today, answer any questions, please come at me. I'm all yours. Deal, that's it.
Jack, fantastic presentation. Really, I'd be cheeky and say nothing new under the sun, but it's always new. Most important part, tell us about your YouTube channel. Srinder's going to kill me for that question.
I suppose we've acknowledged that over the last 5 years we've built 300 unit portfolios in the UK, but we haven't built an online asset. So the key thing there was to document and inspire others that wanting to do similar things to us. We've got a lot to share. We've got too much to share. We actually can't get enough out there to share. We haven't got the time to do it. So we're really this year focusing on building an online asset as well as actual assets to hopefully inspire and help other property developers that are trying to break the ground. I've noticed in our industry, a lot of people go down single lets, then HMOs, then development. We went straight into development. We had done a development before we did an HMO. So it's to help people out there, learn from our mistakes, share what we're doing, communicate with people that we don't get the chance to communicate with frequently, with restricted travel and so on and so forth. But that's the reason behind it. We're at a measly 340 followers, but all of them love us, so we're happy.
Yeah, I totally agree with the YouTube strategy. Before I go to Surinder, XP Surveys, tell us a little bit about what they do for all our viewers.
So XP Surveys is a building measurement and topographical surveying company. So normally an architect or someone working on planning needs to understand and measure something that's there. So we do as-built drawings. We basically put together building measurement and topographical surveys of fields, properties. Let's say, for example, a client calls you up, Deal, and goes, I've got to serve a party wall notice because I'm going to do an extension under PD. They might not have plans and measurements on that building to notify their neighbour. So we can supply all of those accurate measurements to 1 millimetre of accuracy. And we've got our own team that do all that. The reason we set up the company is because we've carried out many surveys by other people and thought to ourselves, we can do this better. We've got an automated online quotation tool that no one else has. So you can tap in your postcode, it will spit out a price, and you can book us in to do the survey. Because of that, and because we don't have to put in that admin cost of having someone prepared to quote up these pricing, we can be more competitive on price because it's all IT based. So it's a measured surveying company. If your architect needs any surveys done to get something measured, let us know. We're prepared to offer you guys and any listeners 20% off your first survey. And try us out. I'm sure you'll be happy, and we can build a relationship where we're fast, efficient, reliable, and delivering a good service for measurement surveys.
Can't be bad. Before we get into more of my questions, Surinder, have you got any questions for Jack?
Well, yes. Your YouTube channel.
Sorry, go
on. What sort of subscribers numbers have you built up?
We're at 346.
And how long has that taken you?
We really kicked it off, as in started putting a lot of energy into this probably about 3 months ago.
Right. And what sort of, you mean a lot of energy, what sort of energy are you talking about?
What sort of what, sorry?
Energy are you talking about? Man hours or whatever.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is property development. Jack's Hacks is on there, which is efficiencies that you can deliver within your business. We're talking about all the intricacies of development, what schemes we're delivering, how Ben and I met, how we've scaled up, looking at projects that we've got planning on, projects that we've sold, all property development stuff.
So what part of that is proving to be more successful in terms of viewing figures? So
our most viewed video is, I think it's got about 2,000 views now, is a video on us talking about our £16 million pipeline. And it's Ben and I talking through each scheme, sharing them, sharing a video, sharing a drone. Seems to be interactively the most popular.
Right. Okay. That's what about you, Gil? Got anything else?
I don't like YouTube. I don't want to talk about YouTube. So I'm being a bit flippant about the YouTube. No, fantastic. Jack, great presentation. Lots of information packed there. I would say to everybody, this is on YouTube. Watch it and subscribe to our channel. And go and subscribe to Jack's channel, obviously.
I mean, we can both. I mean, I'm sure the listeners are more than capable of subscribing to 2 YouTube channels.
Well, you'll be surprised, but yeah, no, of course. Actually, 3. Go and subscribe to my Party World channel as well.
There we go.
I'm not even on I'm not even in triple figures yet, but I don't do it. Well, I'm going to say I don't do it for the followers, but there's some good content on there. Right. Quite some important highlights. You talked about the follow-up.
Yes.
Did you say a third of the deals dropped or the third are done and the 2/3 drop out? Which way around is it?
A third drop out, 2/3 tend to transact. And that is based on housing transactions. So my argument is I reckon the stat is a bit higher for development stuff where there's more issues, there's more conveyancing problems. So yeah, so I would assume somewhere between 30 and 50% actually fall through after offer accepted.
So when you ring up an agent and they say, no deal, sorry, we've sold it, go away, I shouldn't leave that alone. I should go back. Any recommendation?
100%. Set a note in your diary. The reason you should go back is because, as I shared here, every deal that's surrounded by an orange circle, we did not buy the first time round, or we did not get an offer accepted the first time round. It was actually when we went back that they actually went, oh, the other buyer's dragging their heels. What price do you want to proceed at? Or, the seller's pulled out because there's a restrictive covenant, or the seller's pulled out because they're cautious about, a little bit of land missing on this, or subsidence. There's so many things that can put people off. So let's use an example at the top right here. This was our house that won the award as HMO of the year under 6 beds. This property went on the open market on Rightmove with a local agent at 250k. We went in, we viewed it, we knew what we could buy, we know what we can pay per bed. We offered 220,000. We came up against someone else that could pay 230,000, so we missed out on that deal, and I was not willing to raise my bid from 220. That was my top value and within my strategy, which I mentioned earlier. Coincidentally, I kept tabs on that agent every month. Every month I call up and be like, has he bought it? Has he bought it? Has he bought it? Has he bought it? They don't really get fed up with you because they know, as an agent, they don't get a transaction until someone's bought it, and they know that if this current buyer pulls out, they're going to come to you. So anyway, God forbid, 3 months later, the agent picks up the phone. I said, what's going on with this? They said, actually, the buyer's not buying it anymore. And I went, well, let me have the opportunity. We'll offer 220 for it. She went, no, the seller wants 230. And I said, well, we've already been down this route where you wanted 230. Someone was going to go and buy it and they pulled out. So how about you take a view on the price and we'll transact at 220. I decided as a goodwill gesture to meet in the middle. So I then offered 225 to get the deal done. Guess what happened, deal? No, thank you. I'm going to take it to auction. So the seller, after this follow-up, but what I had been unable to do myself is get into a position where I knew this was coming back, got it ready, got the funds ready, was ready to move quickly, had the title pack reviewed. I went to auction and I bought it for £215,000, which is cheaper than I was trying to buy it 2 weeks earlier. But that's an example of coming back round. And a lot of these schemes, all of the orange ones, the ones that we've secured on the second conversation after we've already missed out on buying it.
So it's interesting that you said there you stuck to your guns. So you didn't, and a lot of the time people come under pressure when prices are rising. And I feel that a lot of the time people aren't doing their sums. They're buying it by emotion. They're saying, listen, it's only another 10 grand, chuck it in, I'll get the deal and I'll get it done sort of scenario.
Yeah.
Whereas you took the opposite route, and this is where I guess experience comes in. You took the opposite view and said, no, it's got to be at that price or I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm just all about the numbers because you have to be. No, I've not delivered a single scheme because I fancy delivering it. I've done every scheme because it makes a margin. And there is an element of, I do like the scheme, I like how it looks, I like how it feels, I like the challenge. But the most important thing and thing first is the numbers. If the numbers don't work, you're stuffed. And I've been in a situation before where you've offered something and you thought, oh, that's going to be really tight. And that is horrible. And I've never, I haven't done that since. So it's all about getting your numbers right, sticking to it, and just being more active, getting offers out on 3 houses, all at the right level, and one will come in, rather than taking on one at two that's priced too high.
So in that sense, there's a double meaning to it's a numbers game, really.
Yeah, I mean, be very, very, very conscious of your own time. Make sure your time is spent efficiently. I don't believe in the sort of minigun approach where you're sat on the top of a Humvee and just scattergunning offers out left, right, and centre. You have to understand your competitive advantage, which is very, very key. I think you're more likely to secure a deal if you understand your competitive advantage more than the actual deal itself. So my competitive advantage is relationship building with agents. I can't build the cheapest because I don't run a construction company. So I'm not going to come in at the cheapest build. I probably don't have the best funding lines out of other, 6th generation companies that are running. So on and so forth. Understanding competitive advantages is key, and following up is certainly key in what we do specifically routinely.
All right. So you said building a relationship with the agent.
Yes.
And is that sort of a thing of saying, well, look, sort of explaining why you're doing what you're doing, in a sense? You're saying, look, I'm not trying to rip your clients off.
Yeah.
Just the numbers don't work at what you're asking.
Yeah. It's exactly that. Yeah. But I mean, building relationships with anyone in business is key. You need a good party wall surveyor. You need a good, finance broker. You need a good contractor, and you're not going to go too far having a good agent on side. But there's a strategy at your end that you need to focus on too.
Okay, great. And you talked about work on your business. In a development business, what does that mean? Because everybody's thinking about, what do I mean by that? We're working on the developments, we're building the bloody things. It's hard enough working on that stuff. What do you mean by work on the business?
Really, really good question. So what we mean by working on the business is, let's say we're buying a house in Coventry and a development in London. You'll get the funding package ready. You'll get all the scheme ready. You'll work on the design. You'll work on the delivery. You'll work on ensuring it's on time, on budget, right for the market. That's that scheme. But what you haven't thought about is what your overheads as a business, what's your branding as a business, regardless of that scheme, because in 10 years' time, you're not going to be doing that scheme again. So focus on the core business, who's in the team, who's doing what your finances look like to run the business, what sort of team you want to build, what overheads are implicated with that. Focusing on your marketing of the business. So that project, yes, is called Coventry Project, but that's just going to be one of the portfolios one day. So focus on the business from day one, focus internally on how you can improve, how you can get the right skills on board. It's not necessarily just hiring, skilling up yourself. So focusing on the business has always been, since we really recognise that value, very key for us.
And what's your time split between working in the business, i.e. on the developments, and working on the business in terms of how you're positioning your business to move forward in the future? What's your time split?
What's the time difference? That's a really, really difficult question.
Is it whatever time you get left over you do, and you do on a minimum basis?
Probably 30-40% on the business and the rest in projects.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's a good tip. And people forget. They think the business is development, building individual developments. They forget that it's a business that does developments. So, there's a difference between the two. Surinder, did you have a comment on that?
Only that it is difficult for people to concentrate on working on the business rather than in the business, because most of the time they concentrate on getting the development done rather than what's behind it. That's what I've always found, that people are attend to the immediate problem rather than the building up of the business.
Yeah, no, great, Jack. I really like the way you're taking this thing. I love the YouTube idea, obviously. No comments on that bit, but you did bring a new slide pack. I'm a little bit shocked. I'm going to have to watch the re-recording because there's too much out there, mate. You're going to have to split this up into smaller presentations. It's always a pleasure. Now I'm going to ask you the important questions, and you know what I'm going to ask you next, right? So tell us the truth. How's the modeling career? You didn't put that on your slides.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Well,
It's obviously going well.
I think I shared last time. I've only ever had one go at modelling, and that was to help a friend out who was modelling Oxfam clothing. So it was a full charity modelling career that started 8 years ago and ended 8 years ago. Maybe even longer than that. I was probably about 19, so definitely longer ago than that.
So look, there you are. Look, we've just captured Jack admitting he's had a modelling career. So that's breaking news for the audience.
A charity-led modelling career, I'll take that.
All right, we'll give you that charity-led modelling career. Jack, listen, mucking around aside. Fantastic presentation, really good insights, and we like all of it. I'd say to all our viewers, please go back and watch it. We're obviously on YouTube. Go and subscribe to Jack's channel. Surinder, can we put a link in our description where Jack's channel is?
Yes, got the link there on YouTube, Ben and Jack's Property Enterprise.
Okay. We'll put that in our YouTube channel. We'll put it on our Facebook. Go and subscribe to his channel.
I just have subscribed, Jack, so you got one more.
There we go. Thank you very much, Surinder. I'll subscribe to yours now.
There you go. Careful how you word that. They call it sub for sub. That's not allowed. All right, guys. We
didn't say that.
No. Okay. So for you, Mr. YouTube listening out there, they didn't do sub for sub. They just liked each other's channel. It's great. Right. And actually, Jack, I love your term that you're building a digital asset. That's quite important in this digital world that we're going into. I haven't got a clue well, I've got a little bit of ideas. I think mine are a little bit more flaky than everybody else's. But Jack, fantastic presentation. Thank you for that. Looks like you've got your board on your right-hand side. You're obviously watching the deals as they come in. So
yeah, I'm quite a visual person, so I like to make sure that I'm on top of things. And I find digital project management is good, but I need boards for certain things.
Yeah, so is that one of your Jack tips? Go and get yourself a couple of massive boards.
100%. I've got 2 6-foot boards that have every. So one thing is, if you ask me a postcode of one of the properties that we've finished, I won't know it.
Okay.
So I try and keep as little information up here as possible. So on my board are all my postcodes, addresses, date that we bought them, lenders, all of the key information that I up that deal, so that when I get asked a question, I can just swing on my chair and answer the question up. I don't have to think about what it is. And there's a thing called decision fatigue and memory fatigue. The less information you put in here, the more space there is for other things. So I do keep as much as I can on my whiteboards to make sure that I've got free space up in here.
So that's an interesting little tip. You know, it's not about sticking stuff on an app that you look on your phone. You actually stick it on a physical board that you look at.
Yeah.
And those are the deals or the developments that are live at the moment, or you're putting under offer. Is that right?
No, all of those are on my. So all of the I actually have another one. So this is a board that tracks the process of it in acquisition.
Okay.
So we have offer, sales memorandum, start of legals, planning, investor, banks, bank setup, SPV, investor legals, JV agreements, exchange and completion. So this pushes the deals forward. And then once they're in delivery, we do use our project management tool.
Okay.
And then once they're finishing delivery, they go on this board here.
Okay.
with all the information that I need to know. So if an insurance company and say your insurance is running out, what's the address? I know it without thinking about it. I'll only remember the address of the ones I'm delivering in my head. And then as soon as I've finished the project, I almost forget about it, short-term memory, because it's just taken up too much space.
So that, in a sense, is your portfolio board. That's what you've got in your portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've got a process that you've mapped out for each that's in acquisitions.
Exactly, yeah.
And where do you put the ones that you put the offer in but falls out and you're going to do a follow-up? Is that in your apps?
That's on my project management software called Asana.
Okay, fantastic. Look, we got an extra bit of bonus there for our viewers, so thank you for that.
Always bonuses.
Good stuff. We look forward to your next one. What are you going to give us an insight what you might talk about when you next come on our show?
Well, what could we do?
We'd love to hear more about your boardroom, though. That's an interesting subject.
Yeah, happy to talk about the boardroom. We find that in an industry of business owners, there isn't much guidance. So we like collaborating ideas, contacts, issues, successes with other people around the table. So we get 10 or 12 developers around the table. And once a month we meet, hold each other accountable, make sure our strategy is on point, share our issues to see if we can put all our heads together to come up with a solution, so on and so forth.
Is that all? Sorry, Surinder, go on.
I was just going to say, is there a chance of us getting an invite to have a look at it?
Yeah, but it's like it's a monthly thing. So you know, it's not like a one-off event, and you sort of turn up and see. It's you commit to it. You could come on board to grow your business, and we've seen a lot of people benefit from it, including ourselves, from just really having that touching down and thinking about strategy once a month is really effective. But by all means,
do let us know when the next one is.
Yeah, of course. So we've got more than one boardroom that we run. One was our sort of pilot one, and that's full. We're launching another one, which we can, of course, bring. If anyone's out there listening, or you guys are interested in scaling business, then more than happy to have you on board.
Is that for development businesses or general businesses?
Mainly development businesses, but I would have said if there's businesses at a certain tier, then I think we would all benefit anyway. So we're open to that.
And it's like a coaching environment, I'm guessing. So
it's more collaborative. There's not one person that leads it. We just host it, so we make sure everyone knows what time it is and where it is. But it's very collaborative. It's equal collaboration.
And is that a paid thing, or is that like a club that you belong to?
We put in a small cost, but it's only to make sure that people are committed and are accountable, because the worst thing we would want is empty seats when other people could be in the room. So we have a commitment fee, and that's what we call it. There is a small cost to join that.
Okay, fantastic. So we could either do a program on it, or you can invite Surinder to it, or share next time. We'd love to move that along, because that's quite an interesting concept for like a property business.
Yeah, cool. Of course.
Cool.
Anyone wants some more details, let me know and I can share.
Happy, Surinder. So that's your mission for the next quarter.
Thank you.
Jack, unfortunately, I can't come out and visit your boardroom because I'm still locked up. But
yeah, to be fair, we only do physical once a quarter. So 2 out of the 3. What's that? 8 out of the 12 a year of a Zoom, and the other 4 are physical.
It's 33%, 1 out of 3. Sorry.
You're going to take that one home with you, aren't you, Joe?
There's a rule of 3. There's a rule of thirds everywhere. You see it everywhere. It's something about the mind. It can only handle 3 things at a time. So anyway, that's a different conversation. Jack, fantastic. We better let you go home. It's getting dark. I guess, I'm guessing you're already at home. So thank you for sharing. Really great program. Surinder, go and take
much, Jack, and I'll be in touch with you soon.
Brilliant.
Great.
Thanks, Surinder.
Okay, great.
Can we have your slides and your Excel so we can put it in for our viewers and get them?
Yes, if you can email them to me, Jack. Do you have my email address, I think?
For sure.
I'll just send it to you on WhatsApp.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
fantastic. Great program. And for our audience, remember Jack said, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to his, And we'll see you next Thursday if my voice is not, if I haven't lost my voice by then.
Thank
Great.
you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.